What's going on, my good people? Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining me on another FCP Euro DIY. Today, we're working on a 2018 Volkswagen Atlas. Today, on the Atlas behind me, we're going to be covering how to do an oil change. This is going to be for the 6-cylinder models. In front of us, we have one of the many kits available on fcpro.com, which is a liquid moly kit, which comes with the filter, the O-ring, and a new drain plug with a built-in crush washer, ready to rock and roll. We recommend you do this service every 5,000 miles, and again, with the lifetime replacement guarantee, it makes it a little bit easier to stay on top of that interval. And we're also going to show you how to do the service reset inside of the vehicle. So with that, let's take a look at some of the tools we're going to need for this DIY. For this DIY, we're going to be using the funnel, of course. We have a small pick, 19mm socket, 36mm socket. We have a 6mm hex, and then we have a ratchet and a torque wrench. Obviously needed but not pictured here is going to be a catch can for your oil, maybe some shop towels. Now with that, let's go ahead and get started on this DIY. All right, to get started, we're going to start by opening up the oil cap on the engine side of things. That's going to allow everything to flow out a little bit better. Obviously, running the car beforehand is going to make it thin out a little bit, which will drain a little bit quicker and easier. Just be mindful as you do that. You don't want to burn yourself, so don't do it as soon as you turn off the car. Give it a minute or two, maybe 10 to cool down, and then you can get after it. We're going to open up this cap. If you're working outside or in a windy area, obviously, be mindful. Maybe just leave it resting on top. But if you're working in the shop like we are today or in the garage, go ahead and pop it off. And while I'm here, we'll just go ahead and throw in our funnel for later. All right, now with that, we're gonna crawl underneath, and just fair warning, this car is missing its skid plate. So if you get underneath and you see a skid plate underneath your car, don't be alarmed. That is the proper thing to have. We're hopefully gonna try to get one for our friend Kyle here, but for now, let's get underneath, let's drain some oil. Now that we're under the Atlas, we have our 19mm drain plug to remove. We have our 19 on the wrench. Again, just be mindful if this is warm. Pay attention to the trajectory of the oil. It's coming out the side, so it's going to come out with force, and then it's going to slowly bring itself in as it drains out. So we have our catch pan situated in a pretty good spot, I think. Let's go ahead and break this baby free, and then we'll remove it the rest of the way. When you remove this, just make sure the old crush washer comes off with the drain plug. It should, but it never hurts to check. I like to push against the oil pan as I remove this, and then once I have it in a good spot, pull away. Lessen the amount of oil you're gonna get bathed in. You can see how it slowly starts to come in, so we'll just make sure that this catch pan is positioned somewhere that'll catch everything. We'll give it a couple minutes to drain out, and then we'll show you how to drain out the oil filter housing before you remove the oil filter and take a bath in oil. I'm going to take our new 19mm drain plug, get this baby started by hand. We're going to snug this 19 down to 30 Newton meters. Beautiful. With that situated, now let's move over to our oil filter. First, before we remove the filter housing so we don't take a bath in oil and cover everything in oil, there is a 6mm hex drain plug bolt for the housing. Get your hex bit situated all the way in first, then crack that baby free. Then we'll just use the hex bit to remove it the rest of the way. This will allow the housing to drain first, and then we can get the filter out. We're going to give that its time, and then we'll be back. Now we can take our 6mm hex and thread this baby back in. Always started by hand. And we have it pretty much seated all the way in by hand. And we'll call it good. It doesn't need to be very tight. Has an O-ring that does the sealing. Snug. You can see we actually moved the whole oil filter housing cap. Those also aren't very typically tight, so we're going to be good with that. All right, now we're going to grab our 36mm socket, and we'll get that oil filter out of there. Just be mindful, there still can be oil and it still can drip all over you. So just have your catch pan situated and you'll be good to rock. For what it's worth, this filter has an O-ring sealing side. That one goes up into the housing like so, and usually sits in there, and the little side with tabs lines into the cap. We're gonna go ahead and wipe all this stuff down. We'll replace the O-ring on our cap, and we'll get ready for reinstall. We're gonna replace the O-ring. This is pretty standard. We have a groove dedicated for the O-ring towards the bottom of the cap. So when you install your new one, make sure you don't put the ring past the groove or before the groove. Otherwise, it's gonna cause you a leak. So again, pretty thick opening dedicated just for that groove. Not the super thick one and not all the way at the bottom. Just lube up that ring a little bit. Take your new filter. Doesn't hurt to lube up the O-ring side of that as well. Feed that side into the oil filter housing first. Now we can take our cap. Get this started by hand. Then we're going to snug that down to 25 Newton meters with the 36 millimeter socket. All right, at this point, if your vehicle is still equipped with a skid plate, go ahead and throw that back on. But for now, we're going to just wipe this down, and then let's climb back up top and fill this baby with some oil. 5.5 liters is the capacity for the 6-cylinder. The kit obviously comes with 6, so you have more than enough to fill it up. Start with 5.5, run the car, then let it sit for a little bit, check the dipstick, and then if you need to, it's always easier to add, not so much to remove. Once we get this filled up, we're going to hop inside, and then we'll show you how to reset the oil service or oil interval on the cluster. All right, with this taken care of, let's hop inside. To do the oil reset on the Atlas, you're gonna need the odometer reset button, which is at the bottom of the center of the cluster, and the start button with the foot off of the brake pedal. So holding down the button first, pressing the start stop button without the brake pedal. Give that a second. You're gonna release and press again. And that's it. Super simple. Your interval's reset for another 5,000 miles. That's going to conclude this DIY for today, my good people. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on what we did today, leave those in the comment section below. And if you like this video and you want to see more like them, especially on this chassis, consider subscribing. We make new ones all the time. As always, thank you for watching. Catch you on the next one.